Hi, this is Ant.
And this is Slug, and we're called Atmosphere, and you are listening to The Local Show on The Current, 89.3 FM.
This is Diane here, host of The Local Show, sitting across from two hip-hop legends, and it feels very surreal to be in this moment right now. And I just want to say thank you for being here, and we're so honored to have you as our August Artist of the Month on The Local Show.
It's like an early birthday present. I love it.
Yeah.
We're here. We're here. We did it.
Finally.
We got through all the construction.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's so much.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's everywhere, though. It's not just here.
No.
I know.
It's like
Gosh,
everywhere.
getting across 94 has been real tough.
Crazy.
30 years. I'm just like flabbergasted by this is, I mean, where do you even start with that? Like, because you have so much material to go off of. I've been preparing for this interview, listening to all these interviews, one including with Brother Ali. Y'all released a couple records recently in 2023 called So Many Other Realities Exist Simultaneously and the Talk Talk EP. And can you just even tell us about your newest music a little bit?
Okay. Yeah, we just announced a new project called Gestures. It's due out mid-September, September 19th. And it's a full project. It's a lot of songs, and it is exactly what it's titled. You know, this particular project, speaking from my space, is it was more fun to make than it probably should have been, and I knew I was kind of going at it with a lot of tongue in cheek, a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of weird inside jokes that only we get, or only our close friends, or only, you know, some of them were for literally people who've been listening to us for a long time, you know. But I tried to tie all of my thoughts together in a way that would be an example of who I am today. If you were to sit and hold a conversation with me, it's like I've reached a space in my life where I can't tell anymore if I'm trolling everybody all the time. You know, it's like I'm authentic, and this is who it turns out that I am and have always been. I've been full of dad jokes since I was like 9, you know, and so now it's reached this space where it's like it's in my life as a father, it's in my life as an artist, it's in my life as a business person, if that's a thing. And this album really does a good job for me of kind of encapsulating that part of me and of who I am. Like, there's serious stuff on here, but there's also things on here that sound serious that are not to be taken serious. You know,
Okay, trolling people.
You know, I don't know what other word to use. We haven't expanded our vocabulary enough with that particular word to really define all the like subsectors of trolling, you know? And so I'm just going to say I'm just sitting on the back of the boat with a hook in the water, seeing what's going to grab, you know? I'm just rolling.
Yeah. And you have released a collection of sounds, 4 volumes of it. And this is released last year, and it was your
2 of
debut
them.
album.
Yeah. 2
Solo.
things last year and 2 this year, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tell us about that a little bit.
I don't even know where to begin. It was more like I just had all this music laying around for just years and years, and I'm getting no younger, and it's like I have an avenue to release it, and I've been asked to do it for a long time, and so now I felt like it was a good time to do it. And it felt pretty freeing, and it was something to do. And I don't want to make a thing out of it though, too. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, I don't know if I'll do it again. Maybe I will. You know what I mean? It's something kind of fun to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so fun to be across from the two of you because you two are the quintessential Atmosphere, and of course, to be together for 30 years, takes a chemistry between the DJ with the rapper. Can you tell me a little bit about something that makes you two specifically having that bond and that chemistry to make Atmosphere what it is?
I'll try to answer that. From my perspective, I feel like a big part of our chemistry works because we're very similar, and we celebrate the similarities, and the differences, they're there, and we recognize them, and we leave the space for each other to have that. You know, he's never overtly trying to convince me of anything, and vice versa. You know, there's even been a few times in the last 8 years, as you would expect, where we've had to actually discuss politics and current events, and even in that, you know, you're used to when people don't see eye to eye, you're used to that causing rifts nowadays. And it's like, even if we don't see 100% eye to eye in those spaces, we leave space for that. And so it's almost like we're really good friends, but we also have a work at the factory relationship, because at the factory, you're not really allowed to beef with your coworker. You're not allowed to, you know, get fully into it because the boss is watching, you know. I don't know who the boss would be in this scenario, but I think that we have a really good balance of personal and business, and we don't really, there's not a lot to like worry about in there, because we both kind of fit together really well early on.
Sure. Is there anything you'd add to that a little bit?
No, because that's exactly how it is. You know, just to make it even a little more simple is, you know, he said it just allowing each other to be what we are. So like when he's going on these tangents and saying these dad jokes and blah, 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 that's not necessarily my thing, but I see how it works, and I see the good in it, and I know it comes from a sincere place. So, and my sincere place is just to be quiet and let it go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But also, you know, we both have the right amount of empathy. We both have the right amount of authenticity. We both have the right amount of conspiracy theories. You know, we both have, we grew up on the same culture, whether that's the musical culture that we're invested in, or the just television. You know, we're similar in age, and we're similar in experience enough that if I reference something or say something, I don't have to explain what I meant. He gets it. You know, even my own wife, I might have to explain, or even my mom, I might have to explain what I meant. But with him, it's like he understands because he was there too.
And that is a big deal, especially speaking of the wife thing, because it's like, sometimes I'll say something and she won't understand what I'm talking about at all. So I'm like, oh, dang, you know, and I have to explain a history of something, you know what I mean? And it's nice to not have to do certain parts of that. But sometimes it's good to revisit, what was my point? You know what I mean? And when I'm trying to explain something, so I'll say something about the past that doesn't really matter anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's cool too.
That's and I didn't really get to say that, but it's like explaining something to my kid or my mother or my wife or a different friend. They sometimes can pull all the air out of my balloon and make me realize, like, why am I even talking about you know, nobody Yosemite Sam? Why am I trying to explain who this cartoon character was? Let me just do the dishes.
That's crazy, because I just had to do that. I didn't explain, but I was saying one of his sayings.
Yeah.
Sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like they have no idea what that is. It's amazing.
Which saying was it?
I can't. It's dang, I'm drawing a blank.
Suffer and succotash.
Yes, because I said that. You know what I mean?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Sure. Wait, but that wasn't even him. Suffer and succotash was a different.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's crazy that I knew.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, is we're kind of like one brain split into two people. That's why neither of us can really maintain a healthy conversation with you unless we're together, like Voltron, because then we can cover all the angles and we can, it's like.
I got to imagine, there's some, the professional relationship, the creative relationship, your artists together, being on the road, being on tour, playing with all these other artists. I'm even thinking about Soundset. Y'all were on that lineup every year, and you were next to these artists, everyone from 2 Chainz to Erykah Badu to The Roots. Being on those lineups next to these phenomenal musicians and curating that in a certain way, even influence your music or how you came out with lyricism. I can't imagine being in your position and being on a lineup with the lineups that Soundset was coming up with.
I saw something and I was like, dang, we did that? You know, sometimes it's like that. But at the time, it kind of sucked, actually, to me. At least to me. Yeah. I didn't really like it. Yeah. For the most part, it was just a big week. There was a whole week leading up to it for if not obviously longer, but you would start getting closer, and everybody and their mom wants tickets, and and then the pressure of playing next to these lot of icons and some of the new hot artists or whatever, and being in the comparing game, the comparison thing. And sometimes you would even play, like we would play last at for the first few years, and people are rushing to get to their cars. I don't understand. I never understood that part. When you go to some event and then you're trying to leave to get so you could beat traffic, I always found that ridiculous. But in sporting events or whatever, But anyway, that would happen while we're on stage. And I remember after we played after Snoop Dogg, and a lot of people were leaving, which is fair. I get it. But it was just watching this exodus of people leaving, and
as
you're
you were on stage. Oh, interesting.
I never could understand what was exciting about feeling that way.
It's crazy because my experience with that same thing, I was there,
Totally
I was
different.
on stage, and I was excited that I was doing something that was repelling people. Look at them go. I felt like I was like using the force. Go, run, get to 169 and rush home.
It's funny.
It's funny because, like you said, we were on these festival bills, and we still play festivals with many of these artists.
Sure.
And we're all different from each other.
Very.
I imagine when I was a kid, rappers were similar. It was no big deal to see these different groups on a bill. But today there are so many different branches to the tree that you're on a bill with artists that you really don't share much in common with, other than you're both advocates for the culture.
Yeah.
And it's weird because him and I are both from a space, a time, an era pre-internet, right? So pre-social media, pre-message boards, which means you are not privy to all of the differences and the arguments and the separations and the division, which you eventually started to see happen in message boards, where people would like show their colors and root for their team, almost like sports teams.
Yes.
Like, this guy sold more records than your favorite guy. And all of this stuff started happening. Well, that grew into social media, which we all seen where that went with division just in general.
Huge.
But seeing the early part of the internet do that in music and art and politics and all that, we come from an era that was before your ability to see that. So when we grew up learning how to create or choosing what we wanted to create, it wasn't a concern of being compared to anybody. In fact, you didn't want to be compared to anybody, because that would mean that you're biting, or that would mean that you're stealing style, or that would mean a million bad things. Whereas now the comparison game is like, well, I sold more, I got more streams, it's like, and so when we make art, I still feel like it's informed by an era of non-comparison. Like we're in competition with ourselves, basically. We're trying to outdo what we did. And I think that we're just fortunate to be old enough to have that inform how we create, as opposed to, looking at the landscape to see what's out there, to see what we got to do to try to fit into the landscape. It's more like we've just been over here creating our own landscape, which might speak to an earlier point of just how long we've been able to work together and get along. I don't know if you can name 5 rapper producer duos who have been together for as long as we have, And so with that said, I do think a part of that does come from the fact that when we were taught how to create this, when we were learning, when we were, students of this, and we still are, don't get me wrong, but when we were like really sucking in the information, it was a time when the division and the politics of the art and the culture were not just waved in our faces so much,
Yeah, this reminds me a bit of something that caught my ear when I was listening to the Brother Ali interview, which was he pointed at you and he said, "You were our leader. We looked up to you and as like guide us," and you wholeheartedly rejected the title of leader as being like, "I don't want to be a leader. I'm not anyone's leader. I'm just doing my own thing." And yet you can't deny that so many people, especially here in the Twin Cities, were looking up to you both as figures of the Minneapolis scene, of figures of success because of what you've accomplished, because of your longevity. Can you expound on that?
Well, I would say, and I don't disagree with anything that you just said, and I'm conscious of that. That was what was happening, but I always knew that it wasn't me that they were looking at. They were looking at their own imagination of what me meant or what me was. So they were projecting onto me what they thought my life might be like, or what my work is like, or what my checking account is like, or any number of things. And then the people who actually I was fortunate enough to take the time to get to know, they would see through it and realize, nah, this dude's not a leader. He's just a dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like being able for me to be able to have seen that and understand that early on was really helpful to me, because I do think that oftentimes when people are put into or pushed into these leadership situations, they start to buy into it and they believe the hype and they think that they are some dichotomy above, and I never had to necessarily play that game. I just had to be myself, for better, for worse, good mood, bad mood, whoever I am today, this is who I'm going to be. And I feel as though I was able to walk a little bit lighter because of my ability to commit to that part of myself without letting that leadership part necessarily feed my ego. I was looking for other ways to feed my ego. I wasn't egoless by any means, but I didn't want that. And so that was always, and that's what me and Ali were kind of talking about. I can't remember if I said it as well then, but the point was, like, I didn't want to be a leader, so therefore I wasn't. I may have had some leadership qualities, or I may have made a few leadership decisions, but even those were still made as me, as a person, as a human. Like, I was never good at strategizing to the point where I could drive the ship. You know what I mean? It's like I can totally be another hand on the ship, but I can't drive this thing.
Yeah.
I can drive any car, anything with wheels.
You're like a stick shift kind of guy?
I would do whatever, man. I don't appreciate stick
cars?
shifts. I like having my hand be free, so that I can text. But
guilty as charged.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah. Diane here, host of the local show, sitting across from hip hop legends Atmosphere. I can't believe I'm even saying that, because it's unreal. Significance of Atmosphere to the current is the track Say Shh, which was a hidden track on Seven's Travels, your 2003 record, which I think that was actually my first real introduction. That was significant for our radio station to be the first artist, the first song to be played. Can you maybe reflect on that time, or what you remembered about then, or that song in particular?
The song, I just remember when we did it, it felt good. And I thought it was an interesting take on, lyrically, I thought it was an interesting take on the hometown pride.
Yeah.
As far as, especially for hip hop. So in hip hop, everybody's always talked about their city and stuff, and you have to have your city jam. It's just like, from where we're from,
true,
especially in the 80s, early 90s, it's just mandatory. So the fact that he chose to do that to that ridiculous beat, it was pretty awesome. I thought, and that's always been kind of an Atmosphere thing, and especially back then, we're just going to do something that you just it's quirky. It's like, whoa, you chose to do that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You're doing the opposite of what's quote unquote cool, actually.
Yeah.
We do things that are not right sometimes. You know what I mean?
Well, they don't always fit into
it's great, though.
Any of the buckets. That song was a hidden track, and I could finally admit this without feeling too embarrassed, because I thought it was too corny to point at. For me to make a song about Minneapolis or Minnesota, I'm supposed to, I was taught that I'm supposed to present the parts of it that are gritty and are tough and, don't mess with us or whatever.
Sure.
That's how I was informed as a kid by this music. Mm-hmm. And so that beat, obviously I wasn't going to be tough on that. You know what I mean? It was more fun, you know? And so I approached it from a fun space. And then when it was done, I was like, okay, that was a cool exercise. Kind of corny though, you know, but also that's 50% of my music is super corny. So
and same mine too, you know.
And so I didn't want to
do.
lead with it as a like, look at this jam, which is how it ended up becoming a hidden track at the end of that album, particularly, as well as Always Coming Back Home to You. Because that album was kind of to me, it was a concept album about touring. And the last song was about getting home after the tour. You know, it was about home. And then to say it was a shout out to other cities around the Midwest, but really a song about the Twin Cities. And then when The Current started and they used it as the first song, it weirdly legitimized the song to me, if that makes any sense. You know,
cool.
Of
course,
I did not go out on the Sevens Travels tour and perform that song. That was a song just for the 30 people in Minneapolis that bought the CD, basically, you know? And so The Current kind of made the song more of an anthem. Yeah. And now I feel pressured to play that song when we play locally, and that kind of sucks because I don't want to play that song. But I will, you know, I will because I get it, you know, do your job or lose your job. But yeah, man, thank you for that. Whoever was in charge of choosing that, I you know,
It is pretty awesome.
It's super awesome, yeah. And people will bring that up, like that's the hook to the song, is that it's connected to you guys.
Yeah. Special.
Yeah.
So you have just so many lyrics, so many beats, so many words, so many tropes of interesting musical ideas. It's just like, of course, you're going to brush every area of introspection, of humor, of depth, emotional traumas or emotional everything. And it's almost like you have like a full-on novel of lyrics. Tell me about like having this novel of like just lyrics upon lyrics, and even you, this novel of beats upon beats and ideas.
Yeah.
I hear you, and I guess I would speak to all these lyrics that I have. I ran out of lyrics in 2005. You can't imagine how much fun we're having. Was me tapping out what I had left for lyrics. And then after that, all of them came from the music. And so that was this time where there was a shift in what I was doing, where I started actually writing to the music as opposed to just writing in a notebook, sitting in the corner at a coffee shop or in my bedroom or whatever, and just writing thoughts and ideas and rhymes in a notebook like how I grew up. So I spent the first, 20 years of writing raps, just writing in notebooks and filling notebooks. And I'd go over to his house with notebooks, and then eventually I'm going to his house with loose leaf pieces of paper, and then eventually I'm going over there with napkins until I've run out of all of my lyrics. And after that, he would start giving me beats, and I would listen to the beat and listen. I'd go to his house and he'd put a beat on, and I'd spend 40 minutes just listening to it on loop. And then I would start writing. And then 20 minutes later, I'd go get him and be like, I think I got something. And then I would start, and he'd be like, yeah or no. And if it was a yeah, then he'd go back upstairs and let me keep writing. But it was the music, it was the piano or the guitar, specifically those two instruments, that would dictate where I was going to go with this. Is it going to be a story? What color is this song? All these different things that I started learning about how I really was supposed to be writing, and so I actually look at that marker as like, that was when I stopped writing selfishly for myself. Sure. And starting to go, how do I start to learn how to collaborate? Sure. How do I start to let somebody else's vision actually steer where I'm going to go? And I threw myself at it wholeheartedly, and it's been rare since 2006 until now. It's been rare that I have sat down with some pre-written stuff to find a beat. Once in a while, I can't help it. I'll write out a verse, and then when he gives me beats, I'll be like, oh, that might work for this. You never know. But for the most part, it's almost 100%. I put the beat on, and I put it on loop, And about an hour later, I sit down and I start writing.
Amazing.
And so weirdly, his music writes these words. I'm just the conduit, or I'm the one that is making sure to format it and making sure to look through it and try to process what parts don't need to be there, or is there an arc that I gotta like adhere to, or am I just kind of free to, it's like I am allowed to work it through me, but it's like without the music, I wouldn't even know what to sit down and write about. Like if you told me to go sit in the corner right now and write a verse, I'd sit over there and be like, oh, the floor is flat, okay, where does that take me? I'm over your head like a rafter. Okay, where is that? It's like, yep. I wouldn't even know where to start now. Now I like to hear the music so that I know, oh, this is somber, or this is excitable, or this is angry, or,
Is there something you wanted to add to that, or?
I guess not necessarily, but just to do it. For me, making music is just something I just do. It's just it's more. Obviously, I know it's my career now, but I spent so much of my life where it wasn't. I didn't start making a living until 2005.
Yeah.
So I did this music thing for a long time, but now at this stage of my life, it's like, oh, now I realize what I'm doing, and that's kind of bothers me sometimes, but I still go at it kind of the same way.
Sure.
And what dealing with Slug here is like, nowadays it's so interesting because we're a mile apart. We live a mile apart, but we do things through email with the music. I mean, you know what I mean? So it's kind of funny. Where we used to just be down in the basement all together all the time.
Yep.
And there's pros and cons to both, but the freedom to just be able to do the things we do now is great. And that's because of the success of our old stuff.
Right.
Is what we're able to do that now,
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Diane here, host of the local show on the Current, sitting across from Atmosphere, and y'all posted something on Instagram. I feel like there's a couple things. One, you were like, I think I'm done with a rap thing, or try something new, I think is what I'm paraphrasing. But can you give us a little bit of insight into what that might?
I was trolling.
You were trolling.
Yeah,
that's right.
totally. Nowhere did I say I'm done, but I did imply, hey, I want to try something new. Mm-hmm. And then over the course of the next week, I released little videos and clips of what that looks like. And it is me taking a shot at trying to become a stunt person in film. Because, let's face it, rapping to acting is such an easy pivot. That's why so many of us do it, because you're a rapper, so you're already an actor. You know what I mean? And
yes, big time.
And so, but stunt person, that requires a little bit more. And so, yeah.
Wait, what? I had no idea this was in you. Is there some athleticism within you that I didn't know about? Like that you're.
Look at me, absolutely not. No, yeah, no. But again, trolling, because it's all a setup for a video for the song, the single that we just put out called "Really." Okay. So the video follows me as a new entrance, as a student of stunt, as a person attempting this, and then. The concept of the video was, what if I were to try to get into the world of stunt? What would that look like? And so we made a video, but it's just a music video.
Okay.
And but I do some stunts in the video.
Oh, cool.
You get to kind of watch me and follow me learn some of this stuff, and then you get to see some of it in action. And it was a lot of fun. I worked with a stunt guy named Gabriel Nunez out of He's out of LA. I worked with a friend named Melby, who is also living in Los Angeles. The two of them actually hatched off the idea. They met each other and realized they were both familiar with me, and thought, what if we got together and made a video and somehow incorporated stunt people. Mm-hmm. And when Melby asked me about it, I was like, yeah, here's what I want then. I want to be the stunt person, and let's turn this into me chasing after something different, finding this is midlife crisis stuff, you know what I'm saying? Sure. Even though I'm probably way past my midlife at this point, but midlife crisis stuff, I got to do something different, and I can't afford a sports car, so I'm going to go be a stunt person.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing.
Watch the video.
I can't wait.
It's called Really. It's It's fantastic. I love it. Watch it 2 times, three times.
Okay, so new album's coming out September. We're going to need to get all those tracks, and maybe we can preview some of it on the local show in August since you're our Artist of the Month then.
I think that's a great idea. I'm going to give you 2. I'm going to give you one called Really and one called Velour. We'll give you those. You know what? You can have them right now. Check your inbox. They're there.
Yeah.
Right now, they're there.
Okay.
And so, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys. This has been such a treat to chat with y'all. And I'm excited that y'all are going to be at the Minnesota Great State Fair Grandstand. I know you already talked with Nil about that, but that's going to be a fun show. What? Cypress Hill? The Far Side? Oh my gosh. That's Lupe Fiasco. Yeah.
It's going to smell like marijuana.
It's going to smell like marijuana. Yeah, a lot of
it's going to be massive. Yeah.
A bunch of those shows. Holy buckets. When I saw that lineup announcement, I was just like, I'm going to be there. I love Far Side and Cypress Hill. So, and of course, y'all. So,
It's great.
Excited for y'all. And thank you again for coming. Anything else you'd like to add or?
Check out The Current or atmospheresucks.com for more information about anything, you know.
Yeah.
Groovy.
Get on our mailing list.
Mailing list, buy CDs, buy merch.
Get on the
all that
mailing
jazz.
list, buy the cassette.
Yeah.
Buy records, play more records. Go to Cheapos,
Heck yeah, Cheapos.
feed us
Cheapos feed us.
down in the
Down in the valley.
all of
Yeah.
them, man. We got so many good record stores in this
True
town.
story.
I don't know if
There's a
people
lot.
know. I think some people know, but I think the rest of y'all need to know. Like at any given random moment, you'll bump into Anthony.
Not lately, but yeah.
Yeah.
But
Word.
The Current is public media made possible thanks to member support.